Pokémon. It's one of the most well-known video game franchise names on the planet, and it's also the top-grossing franchise of all time, currently outranking even the likes of big names such as Star Wars and Harry Potter. Pokémon is massive, and at this point, it seems to have spanned multiple generations of gamers, making the series a timeless gem among many. The allure it brings with a mix of nostalgia and ridiculous amounts of new merchandise nearly every week. It's hard to say that Pokémon as a franchise is anything but amazing. I myself hold many fond memories of nearly every Pokémon game since I've practically grown up with my Pokémon. And before I discuss the topic of this video, I just wanted to make a disclaimer that I do not in any way, shape, or form hate or dislike the newest installments to the main series Pokémon games. But regardless of that, I still think these criticisms of the game are fair and should be publicly discussed, especially among loving fans of the games. When something is loved so dearly, it's hard to watch it stagnate and worsen, so as fans, I think we have an obligation to criticize what we dislike about these games. As Distant Kingdom says at the end of nearly all of its Pokemon Sword and Shield discussion videos, don't settle for less, fight for more. I think that statement rings truer than ever with these games and should resonate with many fans of the series. It's also why I think this discussion in this video is so important. Pokémon Sword and Shield mark the beginning of the 8th generation of Pokémon and are currently the most recent mainline games to release within the main series. Now, I can say with confidence that these games are the worst Pokémon games in the main series so far. Game Freak, the developers of the Pokémon games, were met with immediate criticisms when the games were first announced, but it doesn't seem like they listened to fans this time around. They lied and they deceived their fans just for the sake of profit. Now, I'm not against a company that produces good games that I enjoy from profiting. I'm actually all for it. But the reason that I think Game Freak are scummy for what they had done with these games is because they lied about what these games were going to include from both content and quality perspective. Now, I don't think it's really news anymore, but if you didn't know, Pokémon Sword and Shield were the first mainline Pokémon games to be released on a home console, making the 8th generation of Pokémon the first time that it has left the handheld console department and joined the console space. With such a huge boost in processing power available to the devs, I think nearly all Pokemon fans expected something huge, something so massive that it would blow our minds, so much so that we wouldn't even consider another generation coming out for at least another decade. But I think most, if not all, existing fans of the series felt at least some level of disappointment as more news came out about the game before its release. The first major controversy that came out of the 8th generation is what many fans have titled Dexit, after the real-world term Brexit. Although the two terms have no relation, the term Dexit means a lot within the Pokemon community as it holds a sense of distrust and displeasure towards the Pokemon Company. Dexit is known as the removal of more than half of the Pokemon that existed and the removal of the national Dex within the games themselves. This made it possible for the first time in any Pokemon game to be unable to catch them all. The Pokemon catchphrase that had existed since the very beginning of the series has now become a fragment of the past rather than the tagline for the future of Pokemon. Dexit also had more personal implications for longtime fans such as myself. It's left many questioning whether or not their favorite Pokemon would make it into these games. The results were always bound to disappoint many, and that they did. The second major controversy to come out of the 8th generation is the reason Game Freak gave for why they had to cut so many Pokemon. They claimed that they had to increase the quality of both the models of the Pokemon and the animations so that they were up to par with what many would consider console quality graphics, as Pokemon was not on the little 3DS anymore. This gave fans something to look forward to, right? I mean, their favorite Pokemon might have been cut, but the game will look so much cooler to make up for it. Or it was supposed to, anyways. Well, that's what was promised, but not too long after all of this news broke to the Pokemon community, another nail was hammered into Sword and Shield's coffin. Footage of the game was beginning to release, and it didn't take a keen eye to realize that these new models weren't in fact new. Game Freak had lied, and reused the same models that they had used on the 3DS games since Pokemon X and Y. On the surface, there's really nothing wrong with that. Reusing assets that they had made during the development of Gen 6 with the intention of making them future-proof made sense. But the issue arose out of them lying about this and using that lie as an excuse for them to cut more than half of the titular creatures from the game. Next came the animations. Game Freak had already lied about the models which were going to be featured in the game, which left many fans doubtful that their promise of higher quality animations was honest. And guess what? They lied yet again. If you want to know more about the animations in this game and the controversies surrounding them, I would highly recommend you check out Distant Kingdom's video on the topic, as they're very thorough, informative, and entertaining. The link to his channel will be in the description of this video, so please check him out if you're interested. So, with so many things returning from the 3DS, fans were still hopeful at least for the return of things like Z-Moves and Mega Evolution, as they were the new and exciting features we had seen since Pokemon games began being made for the 3DS. Surely they were going to be in Sword and Shield like the rest of the 3D assets, right? Oh, is there a feature that at least tries to replace these things? Okay then, what is it? So my Pokemon gets bigger? That's it? Okay, that's cool I guess, but you can only use both Dynamax and Gigantamax in certain areas. They took away both Mega Evolutions and Z-Moves, which could be used in any battle no matter where you were, in exchange for a gimmick that makes my Pokemon big, and it can only be used in very certain areas. Oh, and making the models bigger only shows how old these assets really are? Oh, huh. Well, that sure is a lot of quality in this game, huh? So the game's released on November 15th, 2019, and many early buyers, myself included, began their adventures within the game. I, like many, enjoyed what the game had, but was disappointed with how much it lacked. It's hard to really enjoy playing Pokemon without most of the Pokemon. It's like driving a car with only half the wheels. And seeing almost no improvements from the graphics present in Sun and Moon left the game feeling like it would have been more at home back on the 3DS. Once I hit the wild area, I saw the tree that everyone had been talking about on Twitter for months before the game released, and the laziness that went into this game really hit me like a truck. The thousands of loyal fans that had supported the Pokemon Company throughout the years were given an incomplete game with many staples of the series just flat out missing. There's no post-game content after beating the main story except for 10 battles before you're allowed to catch the box legendary for these games. Every other Pokemon game has had more post-game content than Sword and Shield, to the point where it's pathetic. This game added so little in content and quality that I and many others see this game as one step forward and 10 steps back for the Pokemon franchise. Now, contrary to what you might think after all my previous criticisms, the Pokemon Company is really smart. We should all know that after they had made the series that we love so much, and they used these smarts to try and cash grab more money from their fans. And before I explain what they did, I just can't help but ask why. They're a surprisingly small company that makes the top grossing franchise of all time. They're definitely not short on money, so why try and milk the franchise purely on name alone? They released an incomplete game, likely due to deadline restraints because they had to line up the release of these games with all the various merchandise releases such as toys, clothes, trading cards, the anime, and any other possible pieces of merchandise that could be related to the new generation. I understand dealing with pressure from a deadline, but if you really need more time, I think nearly all fans would unanimously agree that they would rather a delayed game that is more developed and better. I'd rather wait to get a good and complete game rather than having to spend money on what feels like an incomplete beta. And the thing that makes this all so much worse, Game Freak tried to remedy all the controversies that I have previously mentioned surrounding the game and its release through paid DLC. For $30, you can get a decent amount of the Pokemon you love back into the game that should have already been in the game to begin with. And you can get what can be considered the post-game since the original game had absolutely none. These things used to come standard with each new generation, and they all had high levels of quality that were so good that they had blown us all away. Disappointment was never a thought in any fan's mind for previous games when it came to the care and quality put into Pokemon. But that sentiment has changed recently. Pokemon seemed like it was going in a good direction after the release of Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee, remakes of the Kanto games with a Pokemon Go type style. They clearly weren't made to showcase the console future of Pokemon, but for a fun adventure in the Kanto region with a fun little gimmick that both longtime fans and newer returning players could enjoy. They were good games with a lot of quality, and they were only cheesy little remakes or spin-offs or whatever you want to call them, but they were good. You didn't have to pay more for half of the decks, you didn't have to pay more for any post-game content, and you didn't have to question why Game Freak was lying to you or cheating you out of your money. Hopefully, Sword and Shield are the first and last bump in the road for the legacy of the Pokemon franchise, rather than trendsetters for future standards full of cash grabbing and manipulation. And that's why Pokemon Sword and Shield are the worst Pokemon games so far, in my opinion. So, to quickly sum up everything I've said in this video so far, Game Freak lied, they were very lazy, they manipulated us into trying to make us pay more, and they made an incomplete game overall that just left everyone disappointed. They made the most expensive Pokemon game so far into the worst Pokemon game in an attempt to gain more money from fans that tend to be children more often than not. This is why not only is Pokemon Sword and Shield now the worst generation of Pokemon so far, it's also why Game Freak is setting very scummy standards that many fans hope they will change within future generations. Thank you all for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please be sure to leave a like and subscribe to my channel. It's free and you can change your mind at any time, and it helps me out a lot. If you have any thoughts on the topic of this discussion or criticisms of the video, please be sure to start a conversation in the comments. I hope you all have a great day, happy gaming, and peace.